In this video, we're going to cover the various import formats that you're most likely to use while using Relief Maker and some of the more uncommon ones that you may not be aware of. Let's go ahead and start with the plus button. And let's first take a look at what we have access to. So we have access to 3D meshes in the OBJ and STL file formats. We have access to normal maps in the PNG PFM file formats and some height field file formats. But we're going to focus right now on 3D meshes and normal maps. So in terms of 3D meshes, this is going to be the bread and butter of Relief Maker. OBJ and STL are both mesh-based file formats, and you're going to find OBJ file formats typically for exports from artistic grade programs like ZBrush, like Blender, Maya, these kinds of things. And you're going to find STLs typically closer to where some production work might occur, for example, as an input to a CNC program or a 3D printer slicer. And so STLs will tend to live in libraries online that kind of cater to those audiences. So Thingiverse.com is a good example of where you might find STLs, whereas OBJs would tend to live in places that artists might look. For example, a TurboSquid.com. Anyway, we can import both of these files, and our objective here is to make a real creepy shrine to Stephen Colbert. So we've gone on Thingiverse.com and we've found an STL file that's in the public domain. And let's go ahead and click this and let's open our STL. And we can see that we have this really nice model. And let's go ahead and orient him correctly. And now we want to get a little creepy with it. So let's get some crystal clusters. And we have this OBJ model that we have purchased. And we want it to be surrounding him in a real bizarre, creepy way. Let's go to our observer camera and maybe we can pan this a little bit in front of him. And that's looking real creepy. So we've now imported an OBJ and an STL file. And the last thing that we might want to do is to import what's called a normal map. That's these guys right here. And this has to be in a PNG or a PFM file format. Most commonly, you're going to find it in PNG. These are really weird pictures. Let's take a quick look at one just to see what it looks like. All normal maps are going to be this weird combination of purples and pinks and kind of blues. And this isn't intended for human eyes. This is not intended to be a picture that you look at. These kinds of pictures are intended to be interpreted by computers, and specifically by 3D graphics programs, and they convey, without going into too much detail, the geometry of a scene at a high level. So when we bring in a normal map, it's going to be converted into a 3D geometry for us. So why don't we go ahead and bring in this circle normal map, and let's select it like any other asset, and let's scale it down. And we want to make sure that it goes edge to edge across our whole relief. So we're going to leave it a little bit outside the purple box, also called the view frustum. So this image format has been converted into a 3D model. And let's go ahead and go to the observer camera. And let's grab it. And let's pan it back. And let's return to our relief perspective, and we can continue to modify it. And now let's go ahead and press generate relief. So when we generate this relief, we see we can get some weird behavior. This is obviously not what we want. And that's because when we use normal maps, sometimes you need to make the relief type unconstrained. And this gives the program a little bit more flexibility to interpret the normal maps in a way that makes sense for a relief. So if I change it to unconstrained and regenerate the relief, we get this super creepy Stephen Colbert shrine that we can 3D print or put into a 10 by 10 sheet of wood and hang right on our wall. We've gone through the various different kinds of models that we can import, as well as talked about normal maps. And those are going to be the most common things that you might use, although 99% of you are going to use OBJs and STLs 100% of the time. Anyway, hope this helped. talk about what we can do, and we can't wait to see what you make.